Buongiorno, benvenuta e benvenuto a Fatti gli affari tuoi, il programma che è un invito ed un invito che è tutto un programma. Io sono 31 10 64 ed oggi sarà sempre la settimana lavorativa 4 giorni a tenere banco, perché devo capirne di più. Dal punto di vista economico, sta in piedi la cosa? Dovrei chiederlo ad un premio Nobel per l'economia. Ma che dico, uno ha svariati premi Nobel della materia, e per farlo ho interpellato Pedro Gomes, autore di Friday is the New Saturday, pubblicato ormai in 5 lingue, tra le quali l'italiano, con Finalmente e giovedì per Laterza nel 2023. Pedro Gomes è professore alla Birbeck University di Londra e sta seguendo il progetto pilota nazionale in Portogallo, promosso dall'ormai ex premier Antonio Costa. Insomma, una delle persone più indicate per svelarci vantaggi e svantaggi della settimana 4 giorni. Se sei amante del genere spaghetti English, ascoltala in lingua originale. Se invece non ti è chiaro dov'è la difficoltà di fare bene il lavoro di traduttore ed interprete, ascoltala in italiano. Avrai un'ampia rappresentazione di tutto quello che non bisogna fare. Visto che il programma ha connotazioni ormai internazionali, l'invito per oggi è Mind Your Own Business. Buon ascolto! First of all, I have to thank you for the wonderful journey into the theories of economy. It was very interesting to learn how important shortening the work week is from different perspectives. But before examining in depth the reasons why the 4 days working week is something to accomplish, my first request is to define productivity. Which came first, the rise of productivity or the reduction of working hours? As the technology in the last decades improved it, there are conflicting opinions about it. And finally, will artificial intelligence boost it as never before?
Yeah, it's a very good question. So if you talk, I think the answer is both. The direction goes both ways. On higher productivity allows for working less hours, but I think there is an effect of hours on productivity. So if you ask some economists, and they see this association between higher productivity and lower hours, and some economists will tell you it's because higher productivity allows you to work less. If you can produce more with working the same time, you would want to use that increases in productivity to work to consume more, but work less at the same time. But a lot of firms, they are showing that there's also the direction the other way around, meaning when you shorten the working hours, there is an increase in productivity. And this is not just because workers work faster or work better. It's because you change how you organize work. There's a lot of dimensions in the companies that improve, and I think we'll probably talk about that later. But I think there is this two effects. One, going from higher productivity allows you to work fewer hours, but I think there's a lot of evidence that also in certain situations, and I think now, fewer hours are going to increase productivity. Regarding AI, it's been throughout history a lot of these technological developments that happened in the first industrial revolution, second, third, and now the fourth, and they all bring a lot of prosperity and higher technology, better technology, and we should embrace them. And so I think the AI is actually one of the best helpers of the 4-day week in a way, because it's going to pave way. So already Christopher Pisaridis, a Nobel Prize winner, he said that the revolution we have in terms of the ChatGPT and AI can make the transition to a 4-day week easier.
It is easy to understand the advantages for workers, But can you tell me 3 reasons why a manager or an employer should be choosing the 4 days working week?
Yes. So after the book came out, I was invited by the Portuguese government to coordinate a 4-day week pilot in Portugal. And so implementing the 4-day week with a reduction in hours, weekly hours, without cuts in pay. And we decided not to give any money to the companies. So we are not subsidizing companies to do it. What we did was explain them why other companies are doing it. What are the benefits? So you have the fact that workers, there are 4 lines. One is that workers, when they are more rested, they work better in the other days. And a lot of firms are having problems with burnout, with stress, and these are really damaging to productivity. The second one is that the 4-day week as a management practice is not just working the same way and leaving on Thursday. You really have to change the way you work. And firms that are implementing the 4-day week, they use it to adopt new technology, to change processes, to reduce the duration of meetings, to improve the way the company works in a way that it's usually very hard to change processes in a company, improve them, because workers usually are against, they don't want to change. But with a 4-day week, they participate in the change and they contribute. So a lot of the gains in terms of productivity comes from these changes in the organization of work. And then the third aspect, there are some other costs. So the cost structure of the company is important. So the company has costs with wages, but it has other costs, energy costs, recruitment costs, operational, and a lot of these go down when you move to a 4-day week. So you can reduce in energy spending, you reduce in other benefits to workers, a ping pong table, in the office, so you can save. You can have other savings, and then finally, and I think this is the big reason why companies in Portugal did try the 4-day week, is a lot of companies are having problems retaining or recruiting workers. So they can't compete with large firms that pay higher wages. So then the companies want to retain, because it's actually quite disruptive for a company to lose a key worker. And basically you can either they see the 4-day week as an alternative to wage increases. Many companies are small and medium companies. They can't afford to increase the wages, so they offer something else, something that no one else is offering, and that's very valued, especially by younger generations and women. So it's really thinking about the 4-day week as a way to solve the company's problems, not as a problem. Another problem to think about is think about it as part of a solution.
Economy versus finance. In Friday is the new Saturday. You examine economy and productivity in details. But are they still important? Nowadays, what changed the faith of a company and its workers is its evaluation on the stock market, a field we learned where competitiveness is a bit dark, foggy. The question is if it's still predominant, the material production, and if a financial market is a reliable regulator. I'm impressed, especially when I hear an announcement of collective dismissal, followed by an increase of the stock value. What can you tell about that?
It's a really no one has asked me that, and it's really a key question to understand one thing: why especially large firms are not even trying the 4-day week. They are not even experimenting. You have some now, Lamborghini or Luxottica in Italy, but the majority of companies that are trying it are small companies. And I think the reason is there is a big gap between the managers that work in a company in the day-to-day and see the operational problems and all the operations from the stockholders who don't have a very good idea about how things work. And it's a big gap because, as I mentioned, the 4-day week solves a lot of concrete problems, operational problems. What firms say is that it's actually better to organize in 4-day week. We don't have people who leave the company, so always having to recruit new people. There's less absenteeism. Things work better in teams. We organize teams, the work in teams better. But these benefits you don't really incorporate if you are just looking at the financial part of the company. So even if managers or directors of human resources are very open to the 4-day week, there's a block from the stockholders. And this is very interesting because when we go back in history to the movement from 6 to 5 days, a big change was when Henry Ford, that's now considered the greatest American entrepreneur, moved from 6 days to 5 days in its factories. And he said, I can get more cars and cheaper cars out of my factories organizing work in 5 days. Because he had a lot of absenteeism and because the work was very intense, the workers wouldn't stay in the company. So they would just move out and come back. So that's why he did it. A few years before, he was actually put in court by his shareholders because they were saying that he was managing the company for charity because he was the cars were being sold too cheap. So he basically threatened to start a new company, and he got the hold of the company back. No, so he bought the stocks from these shareholders. But it tells you kind of this sometimes there is a clash. And it's I think firms should be want profits. That's important. But I think sometimes the mentality is that they want the profit in the short run, in this quarter. And sometimes you make very bad decisions for the future because the quarter profits are a bit down. The 4-day week is better for the sustainability of the company. It will give more stability to the labor force. But even if there are some costs associated with implementation, then the benefits would come later. And you see that even now we talk about Henry Ford 100 years later. So for the brand, it stays with you. So I think it's the problem with the financialization or this. It's more about thinking too much in the short run of the company and not really on the long run of the company.
What is sure, reading your book, is that the 4 days working week is not a business for populists. You are particularly harsh with them, but they are hard to defeat. How a new organization of work can help this matter?
So sometimes improving the economy is not just making it grow. No, it's also protecting it from the risks. And I do think the biggest risk we face are the risk of populist movements. They bank on the disappointment of society about the economic conditions. And this is really happening everywhere in Western countries. People are disappointed. And then they vote for the alternatives, but they don't offer any solutions. I don't see any populist with concrete solutions for the economy, and most of the time they just make it worse. And it's the polarization they create, us against them. It basically makes impossible for people to agree. And I think the problems that we face, or to work together, the problems that we face are so complex that are very hard to solve if we don't work together. So I think I see the 4-day week as something that's not really left or right. The weekends, it's not from the left wing. No, we've organized society around 5 days of work and 2 of weekend. And I think we need something ambitious that give hope for the actual change, something that will make things better. And when you see surveys, 70, 80, 90% of people would like the 4-day week. Now, they might be scared that it will harm the economy. But if we work together in the implementation, and if we say, it's not saying we'll have the 4-day week in 3 months. It's not that. But let's start working towards it. And in 5 years, we can do it. We can make a transition. And I think giving people hope and trying to work together to find better ways to organize the economy. And I think we would be able in 5 years to make a transition, to be able to produce what we produce now, working less. And I think the fact that we'll have more time would itself create more economic activity. So I do think that we need something very powerful to defeat the populists, and something very concrete that will tell we are going to improve the lives of people. And I think we have either with the pilots and with arguments. I think we are trying to make a positive case for the 4-day week.
Okay, let's talk about a positive case. Since you wrote this book, you got the opportunity to see firsthand how to do it. I'm referring to the plan you designed for the government of Portugal. What can you tell about it? Did you have any surprise regarding practice? What is the most important suggestion for a country which would like to develop a similar test?
So it has been really a good experience. So we are working with 41 companies in Portugal that are doing the 4-day week. And 20 have started before. That was a surprise to find that already there's actually quite a few companies that were doing it. We just didn't know about it. And then other 20 companies started in June last year. So we could accompany the process. And it's not easy. So it took a lot of time to prepare it because you do change the way you organize. So you have to think what is the best format for the 4-day week, how you are going to implement it, what changes you are going to operate in how you are going to communicate with clients, how do you communicate with workers. So there is a lot of preparation. So it's very, very hard work. I think that for me the most positive or the biggest surprise it's to have a nursery in the group of companies. So we think that this only works for office jobs, but we had a nursery that implemented the 4-day week, and they are a really great example. So instead of working five days, they will work 4, but changing the days off. Obviously, the nursery has to be open the 5 days. And now here, and I think this is very important because it's one of those sectors that you think you can't do it because you have to hire more workers. But the thing is, it comes back to the idea of what are the problems these sectors have. And one of the problems is absenteeism. So every day, it's very likely that someone can't make it. The workers, they are all women. They work, they have kids. So when their kids are sick, they can't come to work. So because of that, they already had to have more workers in the company. Because you know that's very likely. And what happens, because they organize this way, they all have 1 day free. And when they can't make it, they swap the days, like doctors do. So absenteeism came down a lot in the company because they have the day off where they can do everything. They can book the doctor so in the end, they only had to hire 1 worker out of 22. So they had to increase the number of workers by 5%. And I think this is very important because usually what I hear is, they have to hire 20% more workers if they are working 20% less time. But it's not the case, even in these sectors, because of especially absenteeism. you don't. It's will reorganize. Things are going to change. So in the end, there was a financial cost to the project. They have this 5% more of spending in workers, but it's very far from the idea that you have to spend 20% more in workers. And I think this was really one of the best examples from the pilot.
In the book, you explain that a paradigm shift is always following an economic crisis. For instance, oil crisis in 1973 and the end of Keynes' state interventionism. Recently, we passed through several crises, the financial one on 2008 and COVID-19, just to mention the latest. The paradigm instead hasn't changed. It's like wavering. Am I right? And are we missing a great opportunity for a prompt reduction of working hours?
Yes. So when I refer more on the economic science, on the that economic science, macroeconomics did change a lot after these big clashes. As of now, it's not really changing. Neither the economics, the science of economics, nor the paradigm in terms of the organization of work. I think we could have used either the pandemic or even the war in Ukraine, the beginning of the war in Ukraine, to make the switch, but I think we need just. It's still early. We still need to convince more people, more politicians, more economists. The view of the reduction in working time in society in general is a view that yes, we will all be happier with working less time, but the economy is going to suffer because we'll work less. And this is really how most economists see the 4-day week, and how a lot of politicians see this, that it's good for workers but bad for the economy. And my view is different. So I think it's going to improve the economy because it's a better way to organize the economy in the 21st century. But I'm just one economist, so it takes time to convince people, and you have to just show the arguments. And the best way is to show how companies are doing it, because that breaks the narrative. If it's so bad for the economy, if it's so bad for firms, why are firms doing it? So the more we put emphasis on the firms that are trying, then the more it breaks this narrative, and it gives more strength to the narrative that the 4-day week is a better way to organize the economy.
So can you help me to understand what are bullshit jobs, so called by an anthropologist, and why are they dangerous? Short working week aim to limit them?
I wouldn't say the 4-day week is a way to limitate the bullshit tasks. So not necessarily the job, but there's a lot of things that we do in our jobs that we don't really need. And we do them because we've done them yesterday and the week before and the year before. And we never really question about what is really important or not. And that's why it's one of the tricks of the 4-day week. When the companies implement, it forces everyone to rethink all the tasks that they do, what is important, and concentrate on the ends and rethink everything. So I wouldn't say that the bullshit jobs will disappear, but a lot of bullshit tasks, the things that you have to do. So that's what companies in the end, they see, we are operating the same way. Our service is the same for clients, but we are working less. So this is precisely becoming more efficient.
What's your opinion on the future of work? In Friday is the new Saturday. You refer often to gig economy jobs. Will the freelance workers increase in the future, in your opinion?
Not with a 4-day week. I think that the freelance is, you have more and more freelancers precisely because they have the autonomy over the choice in hours, which is something you don't have in the regular job. What I think with a 4-day week, you'll bring more people would want to have a 4-day week job, the stable job in a company. Why I think that the gig economy is important, it's because the choice of how much we work and how much we enjoy leisure, it's an individual choice. And there might be people that want to work more. And so you might want to work 5 days or 6 days, and I want to work 4 days. Now, currently, it's very hard for me, if I want to work less, to move in an economy that's organized in 5 days. It's very hard for me to work 1 day less. You have to go part-time. Very often the company doesn't accept, or they put a big penalty in terms of promotions. On the other hand, if you organize the economy in 4 days, it's very easy for people to work more hours if they want to. And that's where you can have freelance with a side job, a second job, drive a Uber. So what I say, it's easier to monetize the free time in the 4-day week economy if you want to, than it is now. You are free to work less than 5 days. And this is actually a very liberal argument. No, I'm saying that people will have more freedom to choose what to do. And I really think it's important to the 4-day week. It's not diabolizing work. It's not saying work is evil, you shouldn't work. It's precisely to give freedom to do what you want to do. And if people want to write a book over the weekend, or have a second job, or create their own company, or drive an Uber, if they want to, I think it's that's the benefit of the 4-day week, and I don't think it's a problem. Although some people on the left of the spectrum don't like that idea, but I don't see it as any. I see it as a good thing.
So, last question. Where to start? Sectors are the most varied. Companies are organized differently. Manual labors and brain labors work the same. What's the right approach for you?
In terms of what, where to start?
Where to start? Where to begin? Which company, which sectors is preferable?
I think you should try in all sectors, because as the case of the nursery, it can work, but it works differently. And this is very, sometimes people ask, the 4-day week, it's not very well defined. How many hours? For example, how many hours are we talking about? And so I'm always talking about the reduction in hours, but I'm not very specific, because already all the jobs now under a 5-day week are very different. The jobs as a doctor is very different from the jobs at a restaurant, from journalists, from university professors. So they are already organized differently in a 5-day week. They will also be organized differently under a 4-day week. So it's very important that we test, we experiment. And in Portugal, we decided to just test with experiment with companies that are open to it. So we said, who wants to try, we'll help you. And I think that's a very good start, not to see the interest and get examples. At the second stage, I think it's very important to have the involvement of social partners, unions, trade unions, and employer associations. And in each sector, start talking and getting examples in particular sectors and testing in particular sectors. But that, I think it's very important to be done with trade unions and employer associations. And then later on, then you can think about legislation. But right now, I think you could apply in all sectors, and you should test in all sectors. Lamborghini will be a very good example in production. In the industry, that's also one of the sectors people say it's very hard. So it's very good to have that example. Yes, so it's going to take many years. The movement from 6 to 5 years took several decades, but it's something that it doesn't happen by itself. So you need to some activism on getting companies, unions on board. Unions have not been very open to the idea of the 4-day week, but I think with more and more examples, the unions will come, will start looking at this. But I don't think it should be limited to any sector.
Okay, thank you very much. Professor Gomes, the time is running out. I have to thank you again for joining. All the best for you and for Portugal that has to face election day in few days. So
that's going to make it's going to be important. But so all the left parties have things on the reduction of working time and the 4-day week. So it really reasoned. The right wing, their position is not critical, and I think that's a very good thing. They just say it's up to the companies. And I think that's already a very big, for example, in Spain, it's much more polarized. And the right wing just says it's stupid. But in Portugal, they understand. And I think this is the fact that it's starting with companies. And we are not paying the companies, and it's really showing. Yes, I don't know what will happen. But even if the right wing wins, I think the companies are looking at this, so it's not going to stop. Even if it's the left wing, it will probably go faster. But even if the right wing wins, I think the movement in the society is already very interested on the 4-day week, and I think more companies will start trying.
This is a good news.
But, yes.
Thank you again. Thank you again.
It was a pleasure, and let me tell you that you asked. They were all very, very good questions. They were very, and not the obvious one. Not necessarily the obvious ones that I usually get. But they are because they are kind of big picture questions, and I thought it was very, very enjoyable for me.
Thank you very much.
The time was okay.
Cosa te ne pare? Interessante, no? Ma quanto è bello confrontarsi con persone dalla mente aperta, che analizzano le questioni oggettivamente, che non hanno la verità in tasca, disponibili a valutare prospettive diverse. Vabbè, torniamo al programma. Le valutazioni le lascio a te. Ti starai già chiedendo quale sarà la canzone di oggi. Questa è una chicca. Rimaniamo in Portogallo con una band culto, i Gaiteiros di Lisboa, e ti suggerisco di ascoltare Brites de Almeida, che come il nostro Pedro Gomes, l'eroina protagonista della canzone, torna in patria per salvare il popolo lusitano. E come chiudere la puntata odierna? Proviamo con uno sforzo di fantasia. Immagina di trovarti a Lisbona. Una ragazza ti si fa accanto e ti suggerisce:
mettiti na tua vida.
Alla prossima!